Paramount Pictures once crowned Jeff Speakman their next marquee action star, forging a 4-picture deal and designing a movie to unleash his brutal real-world Kenpo skills onto Hollywood. Within months, the same studio shifted course, redirecting the film that could have defined his legacy to someone else, fueling the rise of a global phenomenon while Jeff was left behind. How does a self-made fighter at the cusp of Van Damme and Seagal territory suddenly vanish from the spotlight? The answer begins in Chicago, long before The Promise and Betrayal. Jeff Speakman was born in Chicago in 1958, the son of a working-class family with no ties to fame or Hollywood. By his teenage years, he was already setting himself apart, not in a movie studio, but on the springboard. At Loyola Academy, Jeff became a standout diver, pushing himself through hours of practice and competition. There were no shortcuts, no special treatment, just a relentless drive to master the fundamentals, to deliver under pressure when a single mistake could end a season. That same intensity carried him into college at Missouri Southern State University. Money was tight, so he stretched his education over several years, working odd jobs and paying his own way. It was there, in the early 1980s, that a roommate's invitation led him to his first martial arts class. The style was Goju Ryu Karate, taught by Lou Angel, a police officer by day, a disciplined instructor by night. Jeff didn't just dabble, he committed, earning his black belt by 1980. Every step required sacrifice. Tuition, gear, travel, he covered it all himself. The discipline from diving translated into his karate. Focus, composure, the willingness to grind through pain and repetition. By the time he left Missouri, Jeff had proven he could build himself from the ground up. But as his skills grew, so did his ambition. He knew he had reached the ceiling of what local training could offer. If he wanted to become more than just another black belt, he would have to risk everything and seek out the best, no matter where it led. Jeff packed up everything he owned and headed west, leaving behind the comfort of familiarity for a shot at something greater. Los Angeles in the mid-1980s was a city of ambition, but Jeff arrived with a singular purpose: to train under Ed Parker, the founder of American Kenpo. Parker's reputation reached far beyond the martial arts world. He taught Elvis Presley, built a system practiced by thousands, and had a gift for spotting raw potential. But Parker's mentorship was not for the faint of heart. He drove his students to think on their feet, offering only half the answer to any question so they'd have to solve the rest in the chaos of movement. For Jeff, this meant more than learning how to punch or block. It was about developing the instincts of a fighter who could adapt in real time. The training was intense and personal. Parker's approach demanded not just physical speed, but mental agility. Sessions often blurred the line between lesson and test, forcing Jeff to break old habits and rebuild his style from the ground up. By 1989, Jeff was among Parker's closest protégés, absorbing every lesson, every correction, every challenge. Word about Jeff's explosive Kenpo spread through the local martial arts scene. One day, as he led a class with Parker watching, an industry connection dropped in, a producer searching for something new. What he saw wasn't the slow, staged fighting that filled most action movies. Jeff's hands moved like pistons, striking from angles that seemed impossible to predict. The producer, Mark DeSalle, recognized the potential right away. Here was a fighter whose style looked dangerous and cinematic, something Hollywood hadn't seen before. That single encounter set off a chain reaction. Within months, studio executives wanted to know more about the man Parker called his thinking warrior. The door to Hollywood had opened, and for the first time, Jeff had a real shot at turning his years of sacrifice into a career on the big screen. Production on The Perfect Weapon began in August 1990, with Paramount putting their weight behind Jeff Speakman as their next action lead. The studio didn't just hand him a script, they built the film around his real-life American Kenpo. Ed Parker was on set every day, making sure every fight scene reflected the speed, power, and unpredictability that set Kenpo apart. Speakman controlled his own choreography and even had final say over the editing and sound of the fight sequences. The result was a kind of action that felt raw and immediate, a sharp contrast to the stylized brawls of Van Damme or Seagal. Audiences saw a hero who could take a hit, get knocked down, and fight back with real grit. When The Perfect Weapon opened on March 22, 1991, it pulled in $5.1 million its first weekend. An impressive showing for a new face in the genre. The film landed in the box office top tier, proving that a complete unknown, armed with authenticity and discipline, could carry a major studio release. For a moment, it looked like Jeff Speakman had arrived at the front of the action pack. Paramount's commitment to Jeff Speakman went far beyond a single movie. After The Perfect Weapon's strong debut, the studio doubled down, expanding his deal to include multiple films and fast-tracking development on a new action project. By May 1991, the blueprint included up to 3 more features. With a budgetary commitment that signaled serious intent, industry reports at the time estimated the total package value at around $15 million. The studio's next move was to commission a fresh script designed to fit Speakman's strengths as both a martial artist and a grounded, relatable hero. The working concept was high concept and kinetic. A cop, a ticking clock, and a city in danger. By July, the first draft was in circulation, and by early 1992, the script was nearly complete, with insiders estimating it was 85% ready for production. The plan was clear. Paramount wanted to turn Speakman into a franchise name, building a series of films that would let him define a new kind of action star. In Hollywood terms, this was as close as it gets to a guaranteed shot at the big leagues. Every step forward raised the stakes, and with each new draft, the promise of a breakout career felt more real. In February 1992, Paramount's new leadership called for a review of all in-progress projects. Sherry Lansing, just weeks into her tenure as studio chairman, faced pressure to cut costs and refocus the slate. The high-concept action script custom-built for Jeff Speakman, a cop, a city bus, and a bomb armed at 50 miles per hour, was suddenly placed into turnaround. After nearly a year of rewrites and $250,000 spent tailoring the story to Speakman's Kenpo style, the project was quietly put up for sale. On July 15, 1992, the rights were snapped up by 20th Century Fox. Within weeks, Fox stripped out the martial arts focus and recast the lead with Keanu Reeves, a rising star with a very different on-screen persona. Production ramped up fast, and by June 1994, the retitled film, now called Speed, exploded onto screens worldwide. It grossed more than $350 million and made Reeves an international star. For Speakman, the sequel that was supposed to cement his place in Hollywood vanished overnight, replaced by a blockbuster that left his name out of the story entirely. Paramount's contract with Jeff Speakman was quietly terminated in September 1993. Overnight, the budgets for his films plummeted. Where The Perfect Weapon had the backing of a major studio, Street Night, released that same year, was made for just $1.2 million, a fraction of what his next project was supposed to be. The phone stopped ringing for big studio features. Instead, Speakman found himself headlining a string of direct-to-video action titles, each one with less reach and fewer resources than the last. In Hollywood, momentum is everything. As new faces crowded the shelves and box art, the window for Speakman to become a household name slammed shut. But the story didn't end in the bargain bin. Speakman poured himself into building American Kenpo karate systems, launching schools and seminars in more than a dozen countries. The martial arts world recognized his impact, honoring him as Instructor of the Year in 1993. Then, decades after Hollywood moved on, a new battle arrived. In July 2019, doctors diagnosed him with stage 4 throat cancer. The fight was brutal, months of radiation, uncertainty, and pain. But by June 2021, Speakman was back on the training mats, teaching again. For him, resilience wasn't just a word, it was a way of life, proven in every comeback. Today, Hollywood still discards potential legends overnight, while real influence endures elsewhere. Jeff Speakman's Kenpo now shapes students in 19 countries, far beyond any box office. The machine may forget, but legacy is built by those who refuse to vanish. Whose story gets erased next? Let me know below.